We answered all those questions that the audience was asking about day one, especially how did this all start?
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for A Quiet Place Part 2, 5 questions answered and 5 we still have.
Ronnie, what do we got?
Some kind of fire? We got units headed out there now.
There are people out there. People worth saving.
I don't know why you came all the way up here. There's nothing left.
For this list, we'll be looking at questions from A Quiet Place that were explored in the sequel, as well as a few that are still being given the silent treatment. Naturally, we'll be delving into spoilers for both films. Do you think A Quiet Place Part 2 lived up to its predecessor? Sound off in the comments. Number 10. How did this all start? Answered. The original film kicks off 89 days into the alien invasion. Although we only see the aftermath, the audience can sense through visuals alone that this town has been through hell. In the sequel's opening, we venture back to day one. As Lee goes about his business, he overhears a television report about some sort of disaster.
What happened?
A bomb, I think.
Lee soon realizes that this disaster isn't limited to one location, as his town is suddenly attacked by death angels.
We got units headed out there now.
While the first film strongly suggested that the Death Angels were aliens, the sequel cements their extraterrestrial status as they fall from the sky. Lee quickly pieces together that these creatures have hypersensitive hearing, hence why the Abbots fare better in this new world than some other townsfolk. Number 9. Where exactly did the Death Angels come from? Unanswered. While we get to see how the Death Angels arrived on Earth, the sequel doesn't delve into what planet they're originally from, how they navigated through space without being able to see, or why they decided to hunt here. If you really want to know more about the Death Angels' origins, John Krasinski explained in an Empire interview that they come from a planet without humans or light. When their planet exploded, the Death Angels survived on meteorites, which eventually brought them to Earth. Since this franchise is all about visual storytelling, we suppose having an exposition bomb like this in the movie would have taken away from the mystery and suspense. If Paramount ever wants to do a spin-off though, this is one idea. Number 8. Do the Death Angels have any other weaknesses? Answered. Although they're blind, the armored aliens are able to hunt based on sound. Their extraordinary hearing proves to be their undoing, however, as Regan finds that they can't stand high-frequency noises. A Quiet Place Part 2 reveals that the Death Angels have another weakness: water. No, not like in Signs where a few glasses will get the job done. As we saw in the first film, the aliens can maneuver through shallow water pretty well. When a Death Angel pursues Emmett by the docks in Part 2 though, it's consumed by the deep water. We guess that's another good reason to hang out around waterfalls. Of course, just because the Death Angels aren't good swimmers doesn't mean that they can't stow away on your boat. Number 7. How do survivors build their security systems? Unanswered. The sequel may provide more backstory, but there are still some significant gaps between Day 1, Day 89, and Day 472. During those unseen days, the Abbott family managed to construct a silent alarm system, hook up security cameras, make a long trail of sand to safety, and practically soundproof multiple rooms. As resourceful as the Abbots are, how did they do all this without making any noise? The Abbots aren't the only ones who have made complex security systems. Emmett devises a trap involving empty bottles to alert him of monsters and trespassers. We imagine tying all those bottles together wasn't the quietest activity. This information isn't imperative, but we'd like to know in case noise-sensitive aliens do ever attack so we can prepare. Number 6. Where are the other survivors? Answered. Aside from an old man in the woods and his deceased wife, the Abbots are the only human characters in the first film. It's implied that there are other survivors within range, but they never make direct contact. In the sequel, the Abbots cross paths with Emmett, an old family friend. Emmett knew the Abbots were nearby, but he chose to stay put in his hideout.
He is shut down, unwilling to help, frightened, fearful, done.
Having lost those closest to him, Emmett doesn't believe that there's anyone else worth saving. We see what he means when Emmett and Regan run into a group of feral people. We don't learn much about these people, but it's clear the past 474 days have taken a toll on their humanity.
You don't know, do you?
Thankfully, there are friendlier survivors beyond the sea. Number 5. Why did Evelyn and Lee have a baby at the worst possible time? Unanswered. When Evelyn revealed her newborn son to Emmett, we expected him to ask the same question that's been on our minds since 2018. Why didn't Evelyn and Lee take all the necessary precautions to avoid pregnancy during an alien invasion? Also, how did they soundproof the, baby making? The matter is never given much focus, however. It's still unknown if this was an accidental pregnancy or if the couple decided to have another baby despite the risks involved. John Krasinski believes that the pregnancy was a response to Beau's death. After all, it's not uncommon for grieving parents to conceive another child after a devastating loss.
You have to stop.
So I could have carried.
Given how noisy babies are, though, they probably should have been searching the pharmacy for birth control. Number 4. Did anyone think to live by the water? Answered. Lee discovers that waterfalls can drown out other noises, but he doesn't move his family closer to the river. This is presumably because the farm represented their last ounce of normalcy. Plus, moving would have been easier said than done. Still, did anyone else consider seeking refuge around water? As it turns out, the government learned that the Death Angels can't swim, so a bunch of survivors were rounded up and sent to islands. On these safe havens, people are free to make noise and live their lives as they would have before the invasion. We don't know precisely how many islands or inhabitants there are, but humanity is given a new hope.
Most people had finally given up hope.
A boathouse sounds like a worthwhile investment right about now. Number 3. Was Regan the first person to discover the Death Angel's weakness? Unanswered. In the first film's climax, Regan realizes that the feedback from her cochlear implant weakens the Death Angels. Adding a microphone and radio to the equation only amplifies the damage. As far as we know, Regan was the first person to make this discovery. Since these two films only touch upon a portion of the remaining population, though, we cannot say for sure. After more than a year, you'd think that a few other people would have made similar revelations. Since it's not easy to communicate in this post-apocalyptic world, it's possible that other survivors did learn that high-frequency sound was the key to stopping the aliens. Maybe they just couldn't find a way to let the masses know. Fortunately, Regan does. Number 2. How will the Abbots spread their message? Answered. Although the Abbots now know how to defeat the Death Angels, we all wondered how they would let the rest of the world know. We mean, it's not like they can just call the authorities, send a massive group text, or share a post on Twitter. After hearing Beyond the Sea on the radio, the Abbots learn that there's a station on an island. It's anything but smooth sailing from there, but Regan eventually makes it to the radio station.
You won't survive.
There are people out there.
Using the noise from her hearing aid, she's able to send a signal through the radio to listeners. Anyone who picks up the sound can use it to fend off the Death Angels. But what about all the people without radios?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. Is the world saved now? Unanswered. Like its predecessor, A Quiet Place Part 2 ends with an abrupt cut to black. Although Regan gets her message across, humanity isn't necessarily out of the woods yet. We don't know exactly how far the radio signal will reach. It at least extends to Emmett's old hideout, but what about the rest of the country and world? It's also unclear if the number of Death Angels outweighs the remaining human population. Even if the aliens are eradicated, what if there are more feral people out there? Can society ever return to normal? These are all questions we'd love to see answered in A Quiet Place Part 3, assuming that sequel gets the green light.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.